There is a joy that does not shout, a joy that does not come wrapped in excitement or surrounded by noise. It is the quiet joy, the steady, glowing warmth that lives beneath the surface of everyday life. In Buddhism, this joy is not something we chase, not something we buy or earn or win. It is something we uncover, something already within us, waiting to be seen. Joy is not the same as pleasure. Pleasure fades. It comes and goes with the moment, with the senses, with the story. But joy, true joy, is deeper. It is a state of being, a quality of the heart, a natural fragrance of the present moment, discovered only when we are still enough, quiet enough, open enough to feel it. The Buddha taught that the mind is naturally luminous, radiant, and pure, but it is obscured by passing clouds of craving, aversion, and delusion. Joy, like that radiant mind, is not outside of us. It does not need to be added. It needs only to be revealed. When we stop chasing happiness, when we stop fighting sadness, when we stop reaching and resisting there, in that stillness, joy begins to emerge. A soft joy, a simple joy, a joy that comes from being fully here without needing anything more. To cultivate joy, we begin not by changing the world, but by changing the way we see. We learn to look at life with the eyes of presence. We learn to feel with the heart of awareness. We learn to recognize the beauty of what already is. Consider a single breath, and yet within that breath is the gift of life, the rhythm of nature, the miracle of existence. When we become fully aware of even one breath, joy begins to stir not from the breath itself, but from the presence that sees it. Joy is already here. It has been here since the beginning, but it waits beneath the never-ending chase for more. It waits for us to pause, to open, to return to this moment. This is the first lesson. Joy is not found in the future, not in a better job or a perfect relationship or a quieter place. It is found right here in the reality we so often overlook. The warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of rain tapping on the window, the quiet between words, the stillness behind thought. Buddhist practice invites us to gently turn inward, not to escape the world, but to meet it fully, to sit, to breathe, to observe. And in that patient attention, we begin to see that joy is not something we created. We begin by noticing the subtle sensations of the body, noticing the tone of the mind, noticing the way our thoughts move and shift like clouds. We are not judging, not analyzing, just noticing, and then we soften. We soften our grip on how we think life should be. We let go of the tension in our shoulders, the tightness in our chest. We breathe, we rest. And in that resting, joy gently unfolds. Joy can be quiet, it can be small, but it is no less real. The joy of a child's laughter, the joy of silence shared with someone you love, the joy of kindness, both given and received. These moments are sacred, not because they are dramatic, but because they are true. The path of joy is the path of simplicity, of slowing down, of seeing clearly. We do not need more, we need less. Less distraction, less resistance, less expectation. And as we empty the clutter of the mind, the heart begins to shine. There is a joy in simply being, in knowing you are alive, in feeling the ground beneath you, the breath within you, the awareness that watches it all. This is the joy that does not depend on conditions. The joy that the Buddha spoke of, a joy that arises from the peace of non-grasping, non-fearing, non-judging. We cultivate this joy through practice, through presence, through patience, but it will come. And when it does, it will feel familiar because it is not something new. It is something remembered, a homecoming. Joy is not the end of the path. It is the path itself. It is the fruit of awakening and the fragrance of a life lived with awareness. And so, we begin by listening, by looking, by being here in this breath, in this moment. joy is already waiting. There is a kind of seeing that does not depend on the eyes, a kind of listening that does not depend on the ears, a way of being so quiet, so still, that the moment itself begins to speak. This is mindfulnessity in the ancient language of the Buddha, and it is through this quality of presence that the seed of joy begins to bloom. Mindfulness is not effortful, it is not force, it is not control. It is the soft, open awareness of what is happening just as it is, without resistance, without judgment, without needing it to be otherwise. It is the art of remembering to come back to now, to this moment, to this breath, to this step, to this feeling. When we are mindful, we begin to notice how much of life we miss, how often we are not truly here. Our bodies move through the day, but our minds chase after the future or replay the past. And in that constant movement, we drift further and further from the joy that lives only in presence. Joy is not a future reward. It is a present moment discovery, and mindfulness is the lamp that reveals it. You may be walking down a quiet street, the sky brushed with evening light, trees swaying gently in the breeze. In a distracted mind, this moment passes unnoticed. But in a mindful mind, every sound, every scent, every breath becomes alive. You feel the air touch your skin. You hear the rhythm of your footsteps. You sense the life unfolding around you. And suddenly, without effort, you smile. Not a smile of thought, a smile of being. A joy that comes not from something added, but from the fullness of what already is. Mindfulness is not about achieving a state. It is about being awake to the state you're in. Whether you are joyful or tired, restless or content, mindfulness welcomes all with the same open heart, and that welcoming itself becomes joy. A joy not dependent on pleasantness, but born from acceptance. The Buddha said, "Mindfulness is the path to the deathless. Heedlessness is the path to death." This is not a threat, but an invitation. To be mindful is to be fully alive, fully awake. And when we are awake, even ordinary things become luminous. There is a joy in peeling an orange, in washing a cup, in hearing a child laugh, in listening to the rain fall gently on the roof. These are not grand moments, but through mindfulness, they become sacred. Through mindfulness, we begin to see that nothing is missing. Even our thoughts become part of the landscape, not enemies to battle, but clouds drifting across a vast sky. We notice them, we name them, we let them go. And in their absence, the sky reveals its true nature, vast, open, full of light. This is what mindfulness reveals, that underneath the noise of craving and fear, underneath the storm of thought and opinion, there is a quiet joy, always present. A joy that comes not from adding more, but from needing less. A joy that does not depend on what is happening, but on how we are with it. You do not need to become someone else. You do not need to fix your life before you feel joy. You need only to return again and again to now, to this inhale, to this sensation, to this moment. Mindfulness is not complicated. It is the simplest thing in the world, but it requires sincerity, a willingness to pause, a gentle commitment to presence. It is not about perfection, it is about returning, about noticing when we've drifted, and then softly coming back. Each time we return, the mind becomes clearer, the heart becomes softer, and joy, like sunlight through clouds, begins to shine. We sit, we breathe, we feel the body on the ground, the rise and fall of the chest, the air entering and leaving, the thoughts passing like leaves in the wind, and we watch, without clinging, without pushing, without judgment. And from this quiet watching, a different kind of joy arises, a joy not of having, but of being. A joy that cannot be taken because it does not come from outside. It comes from this moment, this breath, this awareness. This is the joy that mindfulness brings. A joy that grows not by chasing more, but by seeing what is already here, So let us begin gently, sincerely, with one breath, one step, one moment of full awareness. And in that single moment, there is a quiet opening in the heart that occurs when we remember what we already have. A warmth that rises not from getting more, but from realizing how much is already here. This is gratitude, not the passing thankfulness for a gift or a kind word, but a deep, nourishing appreciation for life itself. In Buddhist practice, gratitude is not a sentiment, is a foundation, a way of seeing, a steady lens through which we touch the world and see clearly the richness of our experience, even in its simplest forms. We often imagine joy comes from something grand, a dream fulfilled, a burden lifted, a sudden change of fortune. But joy, real joy, grows slowly and silently through the small things we learn to see. The breath that carries you, the body that supports you, the food before you, the sky above you, the people who care for you, even in quiet ways. To feel gratitude is to step out of the mind's endless craving, to stop measuring what is missing, and to rest in what is present. The mind says, "Not enough." Gratitude replies, "This is already a miracle." The Buddha once taught that even the opportunity to hear the Dharma, the teachings of truth, is rare and precious. To be born as a human, to have the capacity to reflect, to love, to awaken, these are not small gifts. They are profound causes for joy when we stop long enough to see them. And yet, the mind forgets. It turns toward what's broken, what's lacking, what hasn't gone according to plan. So we practice. We gently return to thankfulness, not as a performance, not as a duty, but as a doorway back to the heart. In the quiet of the morning, before the day begins, you might pause and simply bring to mind 3 things you are grateful for. Not big things necessarily, just what is real, what is close. The warmth of your blanket, the breath in your lungs, the chance to begin again. Even these, when truly seen, are enough to stir joy in the heart. Gratitude does not ignore suffering. It does not pretend that life is always easy, but it reminds us that alongside the pain, beauty still exists. That even in difficult times, we can find moments of light. There is a story from the time of the Buddha monk who had grown ill with a painful disease. The Buddha himself went to care for him, gently washing his body, speaking words of comfort. Afterward, he reminded the monks that to care for the sick is to care for the Buddha. Gratitude arises here, tune our connections, in being seen, in being held, even in the midst of hardship. When we reflect on the kindness we've received, seen or unseen, the heart begins to soften. The food you eat today has passed through many hands, farmers, cooks, those who transported it, those who prepared it, the clothes you wear, the roof above your head, all of it the fruit of countless lives reaching you. To see this is to feel humbled, and in that humility, joy is born. Not prideful joy, not loud joy, but gentle, grounded, joy, the kind that fills the heart quietly and completely. Gratitude also reconnects us to impermanence. When we realize that everything we love will change, will pass, we begin to cherish it more deeply. The sound of a loved one's voice, the way the light falls through the window, even this breath here now and gone in a moment. Gratitude awakens us to the fragile beauty of it all. You don't need the perfect life to feel thankful. You need only to notice what is already here. Gratitude is not found in the future. It's here, in this body, in this moment, in this breath. As the Buddha taught, let us rise up and be thankful. For if we didn't learn a lot today, at least we learned a little. And if we didn't learn a little, at least we didn't get sick. And if we did get sick, at least we didn't die. So, let us all be thankful. This is the voice of wisdom, a voice that finds something good in each day. No matter how small, it requires attention. So we pause, we reflect, we remember. And in that remembering, we feel the soft hum of joy returning. Not because everything is how we wish it to be, but because we are finally seeing what is The sky is still here. The earth is still beneath us. The heart still beats. And somewhere, perhaps, a small smile begins to rise, born, not from wanting more, but from realizing, at last, how much we already have. There is a kind of joy that arises when the heart opens, not because something wonderful has happened, but because we have stopped closing it. A joy that is not about getting, but about giving. A joy that is born from kindness, from connection, from care. This is the joy of meditative, loving kindness. Loving kindness is not sentimentality. It is not sweetness in words or softness in tone. It is the active wish for others to be well, to be peaceful, to be free. And in Buddhism, this wish begins with ourselves. We sit quietly. We bring attention to the breath, and gently, in the quiet space of the heart, we begin to offer goodwill, first to ourselves, not from ego, but from compassion. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be peaceful. Not as a demand, not as a desperate plea, but as a blessing, a whisper of kindness sent inward. Many of us struggle to offer love to ourselves. We carry harsh voices, old wounds, deep doubts. But loving kindness softens that inner terrain. It is not self-indulgence. It is the soil in which healing can grow. When we learn to meet ourselves with compassion, joy quietly returns. From there, we expand our circle of care. We think of someone we love, perhaps a friend, a teacher, a loved one. May you be happy. May you be well. We feel the sincerity of this wish. We feel the warmth in the heart. A gentle glow that comes not from possession, but from connection. And then we move outward to someone neutral, a stranger, someone we may not even know by name. May you be peaceful. The practice of meditative invites us to see that all beings wish for happiness, just like us. All beings struggle. All beings long to be free from pain. And in seeing this, the walls between self and other begin to dissolve. Eventually, we offer loving kindness even to those we find difficult, not to excuse harm, not to pretend, but to free our own hearts from hatred, to remember that holding on to anger only burns within, to remember that even those who cause pain are themselves in pain. With each widening circle of care, the heart stretches and grows. And in that expansion, joy arises, not joy from being right or being praised, but joy from loving without condition, joy from releasing the burden of judgment, joy from simply wishing well. It is like the sun, it shines not only on the worthy, not only on the good, but on all. This is the power of meditative. It transforms not just others, but us. It is both the path and the fruit. It brings joy because it dissolves separation, and that belonging is joy. You may feel tired. You may feel anxious. You may not feel strong enough to love. But loving kindness does not ask for perfection. It asks only for sincerity. Even the smallest act of kindness, an honest word, a silent blessing, a moment of patience can awaken great joy. A hand offered. These become moments of deep beauty, not because they are dramatic, but because they are full of care. And each time we send out that wish quietly, steadily, without needing anything in returns, something in us softens, something releases, something returns home, and in that return, joy blossoms. This is the joy of love that does not cling, joy that does not need, joy that simply gives. And we offer the ancient words, may you be free from suffering. We let those words rest in the silence carried by the breath, and we feel the warmth of the heart open. Through loving gently, there is a joy that comes not from having more, but from needing less. A joy that arises when we stop chasing what is always just out of reach, and instead begin to rest with what is already here. In the Buddhist teachings, this is the joy of simplicity and noble peace that grows in the empty spaces, not in the clutter. Simplicity is not about poverty. It is not about denying beauty or retreating from life. It is about letting go of what does not serve the heart. It is about remembering what truly matters and gently releasing what distracts us from it. When we live simply, we begin to see clearly. We notice how much of our suffering comes not from what we lack, but from our endless striving, comparing, and wanting. The Buddha called this tan craving, and he taught that craving is the root of suffering. We think happiness lies just one step ahead, one more purchase, one more accomplishment, one more possession. But joy is not found at the end of the chase. Joy is found when we stop chasing. Look around. What have you been told you need in order to be happy? More things, more attention, more perfection. These promises are empty. They leave us exhausted. But when we simplify, when we let go, not just of objects, but of stories and expectations, we create space. And in that space, peace begins to return. Imagine walking into a quiet room. Nothing there but a cushion and a breath of light. No noise, no clutter, just silence. You sit, you breathe, and you notice joy is here, covered over by noise, hidden beneath desire. But in simplicity, it becomes visible again. This is why the monastics of old lived with so little. Not because they were ascetics, but because they understood. The more we cling to, the more we suffer. The more we simplify, the more we see. And what we see with clear eyes is that joy does not depend on accumulation. It depends on presence. Simplicity is not just about what we own, it's about how we speak, how we spend our time, how we relate to others. Are our words filled with truth and care, or with drama and distraction? Is our time used mindfully or lost in noise? Simplicity invites us to slow down, to choose with intention, to value depth over speed. A simple life is not a small life. It is a wide, spacious, open life, free of unnecessary burden, free of chasing, free of pretending. It is a life of freedom, and freedom is joy. There is joy in wearing clothes until they are soft and familiar, joy in preparing a quiet meal and eating it with gratitude, joy in walking without needing to arrive, joy in saying less but meaning more, joy in choosing one thing and giving it your full attention, joy in silence. When we are content, we stop looking outward for what only inwardness can offer. We stop measuring ourselves against others. We let go of the illusion that we are incomplete. We discover, quietly, that this moment, when truly met, is enough. Simplicity also means letting go of roles we do not need to play. Letting go of pretending, letting go of the mask. To live simply is to live honestly, to be what we are, no more, no less. There is great joy in that freedom. The world may pull you in many directions. More noise, more stimulation, more urgency. But the Dharma gently reminds us, come back to what is real. Come back to what is here. You do not need to own the world. You need only to wake up to it. So let us sit in this stillness together, just for a moment. Breathing in, we feel the body. Breathing out, we rest in the breath. No past to analyze, no future to arrange. Just this moment, this breath, this awareness, and we discover there is a fullness in simplicity, a fullness in a single flower, a single bowl, a single breath. When the mind is quiet, the heart feels full. When we live simply, we live with space, space to feel, space to care, space to love, and in that space, joy blooms. There is a happiness that flickers, a pleasure that fades quickly, like a flame caught by the wind. But there is another kind of joy, quiet, steady, enduring. It does not come from taking, it comes from giving. In the Buddhist path, DNA generosity is the very first teaching, not because it is simple, but because it opens the heart. It softens the walls that keep us separate. And when those walls soften, joy flows in naturally, effortlessly, like light returning to a darkened room. We often think of giving as something we do for others, and that is true. But what the Buddha revealed is even deeper. Giving frees us. Generosity untangles the knots of clinging. It teaches the mind to let go. And in letting go, we taste freedom. What can you give? Not only things, not only coins or gifts. You can give attention. You can give patience. You can give forgiveness. You can give presence. A kind word, a silent prayer, a listening ear, a gentle glance. These are offerings to. Sometimes we give, and the mind whispers, "Will I have enough?" But generosity does not measure wealth by what is kept. It measures it by the heart's capacity to love. The more we give, the more we realize we were never empty. We were always full. There is a moment after the gift is given when something stirs, a warmth, a breath, a lightness, not because we received something in return, but because we released something. We dropped the weight of self-centeredness, and in that release, joy was born. In Buddhist tradition, the joy of giving is said to arise in 3 waves. First, in the moment we decide to give, when intention is pure and heartful. Then again, in the moment of the act itself, as the gift is offered freely. And once more, after the giving is complete, when the mind reflects and rests in the beauty of that offering. 3 waves, 3 joys, 1 quiet heart. True generosity is not about sacrifice. It is not giving out of guilt or duty or fear. It is giving from love. It is a song of the heart, sung without needing applause. It is the spontaneous offering of something precious, not because we have too much, but because we recognize that joy grows when it is shared. Even in difficulty, we can give. Especially in difficulty, generosity becomes medicine. When we feel lost or uncertain or afraid, giving reminds us we still have something to offer. And in offering it, we reconnect with the world, with others, and with our own worth. There is a story told of the Buddha. Once a very poor woman came to him with nothing to offer but a handful of grass. But she gave it with sincerity, with love, with open hands. And the Buddha accepted it with the same reverence as a king's treasure. Because in the Dharma, the size of the gift does not matter. What matters is the purity of heart. Can you give without needing thanks? Can you give without being seen? Can you give without holding onto the story of "I gave"? This is the deepest generosity, the kind that leaves no trace, no pride, no expectation, just joy. And yet, even when giving is imperfect, it still carries power. Every small act of kindness, every small loosening of the grip plants a seed of connection, a seed of trust, a seed of joy. And over time, those seeds bloom. Generosity also invites us into community. When we give, we remember we are not alone. We are part of something vast and beautiful, a web of giving and receiving that stretches across time and space. The food on your plate, the clothes on your back, the home you rest in, all made possible through the labor, care, and giving of countless beings. We are not isolated islands. We are supported, and we can support others. To live generously is to live freely. It is to move through the world not asking, "What can I get?" but "What can I offer?" And the answer is always something, no matter how small. Tonight, or in the quiet space of this hour, you might reflect, "What have I received?" And then, "What can I offer in return or forward?" Not because I must, but because I am grateful to do so. Let the breath carry this reflection. Let the heart soften. There is no need to rush, no need to give everything, only the need to give sincerely. And as you rest in this space, this heart space of generosity, you may notice something gentle rising, not pride, not excitement, but peace, a calm joy, a quiet happiness born from connection, from openness, from love. This is the joy of giving, the joy that lives in open hands, the joy that arises when the heart is light. There is a deep truth in the Buddha's teaching, one that is neither harsh nor pessimistic, but filled with compassion. He said, "Life contains suffering, not as a punishment, not as a failure, but simply because all things change, and we so often cling to what cannot stay. We lose what we love. We feel pain in the body, ache in the heart, confusion in the mind. We meet disappointment, uncertainty, loneliness, grief. And yet, even here, in the very soil of suffering, the seeds of joy are waiting. Joy is not the absence of pain. It is the presence of understanding. It is the calm that comes when we stop running from our sorrow and begin to turn toward it gently, bravely, with kindness. The Buddha did not promise a life without difficulty. What he offered was a path, a way to meet our experience with wisdom, to understand its causes, to let go of what binds us, and through this path, to discover a joy that is not dependent on what happens, but on how we meet what happens. This is the alchemy of the Dharma, not to avoid suffering, but to transform it, to hold it tenderly, to learn from it, and in doing so, to uncover the spaciousness that was hidden behind the pain. Imagine a lotus growing in a muddy pond. It does not avoid the mud, it rises from it. The mud is not the enemy, is the source of nourishment. So too our struggles, when met with awareness, can become the ground from which joy grows. When we experience suffering, we begin by pausing, not turning away, not reacting, just pausing, breathing, feeling, naming what is true. There is sadness, there is fear, there is anger. We don't become these states, we observe them. We meet them with mindfulness, and as we do, we begin to see suffering is not a solid block. It is made of many pieces: expectations, memories, attachments, fears. When we look closely, compassion naturally arises. We begin to hold our pain the way a mother holds a crying child, not with judgment, but with care. This care is the beginning of transformation. The Buddha taught that within every experience of dukkha satisfactoriness, there is the potential for insight. We see the impermanence of things. We see the ways we grasp. We see the ways we resist. And in that seeing, there is wisdom. Wisdom softens the mind. It loosens the tightness. And in that loosening, joy begins to emerge, not because the pain is gone, but because we are no longer imprisoned by it. There is a joy that comes from not needing life to be perfect, a joy that comes from meeting each moment just as it is with a courageous heart. This joy is quiet, deep, unshakable. It says, even here, I can be free. In Buddhist practice, this freedom often begins with compassion, not only for others, but for ourselves. We say, this is a moment of suffering. Suffering is part of being human. May I be kind to myself in this moment. These words are not indulgent. They are medicine. They help the heart heal. And as we heal, our suffering becomes a doorway, a wall. We begin to connect with others more deeply. We see their pain and we understand. We become less reactive, more patient, more loving. Our wounds become our wisdom. Our sadness becomes our strength. Even tears can carry joy, not because they are pleasant, but because they are honest, because they soften the barriers we've built, because they remind us that we are alive. There is no need to pretend, no need to hide. In this path, everything belongs. The laughter and the grief, the ease and the struggle. They all point to something larger, the capacity of the heart to hold it all. And as we practice sitting, breathing, watching, feeling, we discover that suffering and joy are not two separate roads. They are woven together. When we meet our suffering with love, we step onto the path of joy. We may not always feel joy as a bright light. Sometimes it is only a flicker, a warmth, a softening in the chest, a quiet moment of peace after the storm. But that too is joy. And so we continue breathing in, breathing out, meeting each experience as it comes, trusting that nothing is wasted, part of the great return. Joy is not waiting at the end of suffering. It is within the process of turning toward it. It is in the courage to feel, the humility to learn, the grace to forgive. This is the joy of transformation. the joy that rises like the lotus. There comes a moment in every sincere life when the heart whispers a quiet question: what is this life truly for? Not in a way that demands an answer, but in a way that opens space, a space to pause, to feel, to remember. The Buddha did not teach joy as something random or fleeting. He taught joy as the fruit of a well-lived life, one lived with purpose, with presence, and with care. A life not consumed by distraction, but guided by intention. Not driven by fear, but shaped by wisdom. Purpose, in the Buddhist sense, is not a goal to chase. It is not a role to perform. It is not even a career or achievement. Purpose is the quiet knowing that we are living in harmony with truth, that our thoughts, our words, and our actions are in alignment, that we are living from the heart rather than the habit. And when we live this way, awake, honest, compassionate joy begins to blossom without effort. Joy becomes not just a feeling, but a way of being. You don't need to be perfect to live with purpose. You only need to be sincere. Purpose does not require that you have it all figured out. It asks only that you keep returning again and again to what matters. In Buddhist practice, we are invited to reflect deeply on intention. Before we act, before we speak, we ask, is this rooted in kindness? Is this rooted in wisdom? Will this lead to peace? These questions are not burdens. They are lamps illuminating the path of joy. And when we forget, when we get lost in the world's noise, we do not judge ourselves. We simply begin again. This beginning again is itself an act of purpose. It is an act of strength. It is a turning toward joy. To live with purpose means to live with clarity, to know deep in the bones what you value, and then to shape your life in harmony with those values. If you value compassion, live gently. If you value truth, speak honestly. If you value peace, purpose is not rigid. It is not about always knowing what to do. It is about trusting the heart to guide you, moment by moment. It is about staying close to the present, where life is always unfolding. In the early mornings, when the world is quiet and the breath is slow, purpose can be felt as a kind of calm, a steadiness beneath the waves, a quiet vow. Today, I will live with care. Today, I will meet the world with an open heart. Today, I will be kind to myself and others. Even in the simplest acts, washing a dish, listening to a friend, stepping outside to feel the sun, we can express this purpose. We can meet each moment not as a task, but as an offering. And in this offering, joy arrives. The Buddha taught that joy follows a mind that is pure, like a shadow that never leaves. This purity is not about moral perfection. It is about alignment. It is about living a life that feels whole, one that resonates with truth. When we are in touch with our purpose, we begin to feel less scattered, less overwhelmed. We stop asking, what do I need to be happy? And begin asking, what am I here to give? And in giving, we receive something deeper than pleasure. We receive peace. Purpose gives shape to our days, and joy fills the space within that shape. Together, they create a life that is both grounded and luminous, a life that doesn't need to be dramatic to be meaningful, a life of quiet beauty. You may ask, what if I don't know my purpose yet? But the truth is, you do. It lives beneath the noise, beneath the fear, beneath the expectations of others. Your purpose is the expression of your deepest truth, and each time you sit in silence, you draw closer to it. Purpose may be simple: to be kind, to be present, to help, to heal, to love. These are enough. So we continue this journey, not to escape life, but to meet it more fully, with open eyes, with a steady heart, with hands ready to serve, and a mind ready to rest in what is. This is the path of joy, the path of one who walks with intention, who listens deeply, who speaks with care, the path of one who remembers, again and again, what truly matters. And as we walk this path, we find that joy is not something we chase. It is something we uncover, something that was here all along beneath the rushing, beneath the wanting, beneath the fear. This joy is your birthright. This peace is your home, and your purpose, whatever shape it takes, is simply to live in alignment with this truth, to live with care, to live with love, to live with clarity. This is enough. And when you live this way softly, steadily, sincerely, you will find that joy walks beside you, not just in special moments, but in every breath.